The chapter that I've been reading is in Joel. So, Joel chapter 2. And I encourage you all to read it. I will read some verses. It's about a 30 verse chapter, but it's about what I got from it was is God removing from his people to bring their attentions back to him. So they lost their way and developed an appetite for things without including him at its center. So, Joel chapter 2, I'll read verse 3. A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yea, and nothing shall escape them. And I'm going to paraphrase as I am explaining what I got from this. So basically, God sent the locusts. So this is not with Pharaoh, this is the Israelites, okay? This is a different time. So he sent the locusts to devour everything. So when you read that verse and he says, the land is as the Garden of Eden before them. So that is before the locusts come. And behind them, what do they leave? They leave wilderness because they are eating everything. And yeah. Verse 10 is, the earth shall quake before them, the heaven shall tremble, the sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. That is the cast over from this army of locusts. Verse 12 is, therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning. And that is the point of it, right? God sent his army of locusts to devour what was distracting his people. And what does he want us to do? He wants us to fast and to turn to him with a humble heart. Verse 13 says, and rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your God, for he is gracious, merciful, slow to anger, and of great kindness, and repenteth him of evil. So he wants us to not only, when he says rend your heart, I took it as to say circumcise your heart. Let the change happen on a deep level and not just the surface. Don't just put on the robe. Let the work be done within. I have two more verses. Verse 17 is, let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar. And I stopped on that part and I said, between the porch and the altar, just to think of that distance, right? Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar. And let them say, spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen should rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is their God? And verse 19 is the last one. Yea, the Lord will answer and say unto his people, behold, I will send you corn and wine and oil, and ye shall be satisfied therewith, and I will no more make you a reproach among the heathen. So after all of that chasing, God blesses them because their heart was in a good place. And reading this, what came to mind was a shepherd when he is doing his shepherding, right? And the tools he used to gather his sheep and keep them in line. And one of the things that he uses is dogs. He calls those dogs, and those dogs listen to him. And he herds the sheep with the assistance of his dogs. And these dogs don't bite the sheep, But don't you think the sheep is scared of the dog? For sure. So just to think that God uses things that we may think or receive as not good to get us to turn a certain way towards him. He used the locust for the Israelites, and this image again of the dog being used to herd the sheep. I find it's just so similar. And my prayer for us this afternoon is that God would reveal to us on a spiritual level what we see here in the natural, what is not of him. You know? Because if you know that dog is there protecting you and keeping you on target and helping you not to stray, you won't fear it.
That's
You
right.
know?
That's right. Amen.
Let me just see if I'm forgetting anything before I move on. So, in these places of lack, okay, when the locusts come and they devour, they leave us, I say us, the Israelites, the people of God, without what we thought we needed, which was a crutch, basically, which was taking our attentions away from God. You know, it brings us to a place where spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, we are looking towards him. So we're postured towards him. And in that, just like glass, he tempers us to be able to receive more of him. And a lot of the times, more things of this world. Only when we're tempered can we receive it and not break and not look to things for a filling. And I also believe in those moments of lack, we hear God clearer in a deeper way. And he uses us to intervene on behalf of our brothers and sisters. And I'll close this off with a small testimony that I encourage us not to let passing thoughts just come and go, because that a lot of the times is how God speaks to us, is in a thought. You know, we have to guard our minds because it's us speaking, it's God speaking, and it's the enemy trying to get in, right? And this week, I had a passing thought, or I should say a vision. And as God brought me this sight, for the next 2 days, I was heavy and I was down. And I was just like, what is this? I can't concentrate. And I believe what I was experiencing was what the person was experiencing in the vision that I had. So it's like, it brought me to a place of saying, you know, a lot of times we judge and we're like, oh, why isn't this person praying? Why isn't this person doing that? But when God not only shows you what someone is going through, but he has you feel it. For 2 days, I felt lost until the morning I woke up and it broke off of me. So we just have to support each other and encourage each other, because sometimes the locusts aren't always from God. We hope that the locusts are from God, right?
So true.
In those instances, we don't have to worry. But when they're sent from the enemy, then it's another thing. And when the person isn't completely covered, it's even a dangerous thing. But that's what I have to share. And we'll lift it up in prayer towards the end of